Okay, it says we're live. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much. If you're watching live, let us know that you're live. If you're watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay. And today I have a really special guest for you. This is part of a new series called Redemption, and each interview has a specific theme. And so here we have Hip today, who's an amazing, renowned tattoo artist. And, I consider him actually I really admire and am inspired by you, Hip. And so I appreciate having you here today just to share your story. And the theme that I've kind of titled this is Reclaiming Your Future. That's what, from what I've heard you share, that's kind of the theme that I've noticed. And I'm sure everyone will also grab their own theme, but that's kind of what I got from it. And so I think just this is really important as people in entrepreneurship and business, and honestly, all different walks of life come in. I think we all experience challenges and obstacles that occur. And I think you are a miracle. You are just the way that you show up to life and handle the challenges that have come your way. I find really inspiring. So thank you so much. And I'll let you introduce yourself because you're going to describe what you do and yourself better than I ever could.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And, kind words and acknowledging everything sometimes are hard for me to accept because it's like, man, what I've been taught is there's a magical word called help. And I used to never ask for it. So now I do. And it's almost like I'm here because of people who have helped me because I chose to ask for help. So I can't take all the credit. I just guess I choose to have a positive outlook on life now since, what do they say? People who have lived through hell are not scared to go there or something along those lines. So yeah, I'm a tattoo artist, a professional tattoo artist. I'll have 9 years this month, actually in the middle of the month. Not sure the exact date, but it's coming up. So my tattoo anniversary for 9 years. I'm in long-term recovery. I was an IV heroin user or just any drug user. I get to coach online to other tattoo artists all around the world now. I help manage a shop, Aisle 9 Tattoos in Centerville, Ohio, which is like the suburb of Dayton. I'm married. I have a mortgage. I own my car. I have multiple bank accounts. I have serenity and peace of mind. I have 2 stepchildren who have asked me to adopt them. So ultimately, like, where I was and what I came through to get here was well worth it. And I appreciate your title of Reclaiming Your Future because there was a point in my life where I thought my only contribution to life in this fun little journey we do as humans was to be a statistic. And I was completely content being the guy that had so much talent and I let it go to waste. So don't be like me is the story you would tell your children. And I was like, well, you know what? If that's what I contribute, then that's fine. I'll just be another number on a sheet of paper somewhere about how profound and prolific this whole drug epidemic has been. And Hip had more talent in his pinky than our whole family tree. So just don't be like him and you'll be all right. And I was at terms with that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like at least what I could do, for being a bag of shit this whole time. But unfortunately, like the universe, my higher power had other plans for me and allowed me to hit my rock bottom alive. And, the eagle landed, the seashells had come ashore, like the stars had aligned in my favor. And I get to do amazing things like be on shows like this.
Well, we're so happy to have you here to really shed that light for people because there are people who just so many challenges, right? It can often feel like that's it. And are you open to, and well, I remember, if someone is looking for a tattoo, or they're interested, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, awesome. So I have a website, therealhip.com. Then that'll take you to all facets of social media, my Facebook page, TikTok, Instagram, the shop, the location, and you have an inquiry form on there to hit and submit your ideas for us to go over and see if we're a right fit for each other.
Cool, cool. And cool. So and I really appreciate just the way that you open that up, because I think it really covers, just a bite size, right? Like of your journey. And so, are you open to just talking about, I guess, maybe those early days or early phases of your life? I know there's so much. Where do you think would be most helpful, or what feels most present for you to begin to talk about?
To be honest, I've learned that the past guilt and shame could be viewed as two ways. One, just as what it is, guilt and shame, or the better side, which I choose to go the route of, which is I have a golden chest full of knowledge, experience, and hope that I can use to have for relatability for people who may be struggling. There's always someone that's got it worse than me, and then there's people that don't have it as worse as me, and I believe that, like, my experience can lend a hand to those to let you know that, like, all hope is not lost. And I'm just grateful for the things that did for me what I couldn't do for myself, right? I used to say that my higher power in the beginning was a set of handcuffs and a jury of my peers, because I wasn't going to stop. I wouldn't go into treatments and things like that. And, ultimately I like to be very transparent. The truth needs no defense. So, yeah, anywhere you would like to start, that's totally fine with me. As personal as you want to get, that's completely fine too. I'm vulnerable and an open book.
Okay. Yeah. Um, So let's start with, because I think just childhood and upbringing are things that are pretty, everyone has their own experience, but I think is a pretty common thing, especially among entrepreneurs or, other tattoo artists listening. I think entrepreneurship, and from what I understand of like the tattoo industry, there's this element of, you know, whether it's a past or something that has happened, this stepping into their own power, or like leading their path. And so I think in just the early days is probably helpful in terms of childhood. And I've heard you talk about a few things. I think you said even, and for anyone that hasn't listened, check out the Tattoo Guardians podcast. It's really good. Hip's a host on there. And one of the things that I heard you mention was that early on, I think you said you lit. Did you light like parts of the house on fire or something like that?
Yeah. So
Really, I'm diving right in. Yeah.
I grew up in Jamestown, Ohio, which is like a small little town east of Xenia, Ohio. So we're out in the cornfields, and I was very eclectic and different as a child. I was raised by a single mother, and my dad really wasn't there except maybe the beginning stages of me being a kid. But I always, hindsight's 2020. So now looking back, like I could say that I was a mama's boy with daddy issues, because I always wanted the attention of my father, but he wasn't ever there, and I would get it from my mom, which in turn allowed me. Plus, I'm the baby, so I just hung on her tit and was the baby. My brother and sister were 10 years older than me. So when I was a kid running around on the farm, they were already doing things that normal teenagers do. My grandparents would watch me, but they're in their golden years. They're just doing my mom a solid because she had to go to work to support and pay the bills. So I just found myself doing a lot of weird shit as a kid. We recently did a 5 things you don't know about us on the Tattoo Guardians podcast, and one of them, and something that I do have a lot of guilt and shame with, but I'm a different person, and again, like, it just leads to who we are. But as a young kid, I don't know if I was looking for attention or if they were like psychopathic tendencies, but I used to torture animals a lot and like get a lot of pleasure from it. And through therapy, eventually, as I got older, I found out that my grandma was actually my out for that, and she taught me about compassion and empathy really, really at a young age. And yeah, I would catch my house on fire. I would feed my sister's pug chocolate and then lock it in her room while she was at school and turn the radio up real loud so it would just make a mess for when she got home. Shot my sister in the face with a pellet gun because she wouldn't let me ride down the stairs in a beanbag. So I was very defiant and unusual as a kid. And, there could be some things genetically there. There's definitely, because I've noticed that, especially now having kids of my own, that like we're sponges and we pay attention to things, and there's very traumatic things that to a normal person may not be traumatic, but I don't believe it's fair for us to gauge each other's trauma. So whatever my mountain is may be a molehill to you, but it's still unfair for you to judge that because that's my struggle at the time. And yeah, school wasn't good at school. I remember vividly being before school. I was probably 4 or 5, and my father was an alcoholic, and it actually took him out once I turned 15. But he was threatening to kill himself, and my mom brought me with her to go meet him to like keep him from doing what he was claiming he was going to do, only to arrive at some busted ass trailer park motel deal out in the middle of nowhere. And his truck was there. It was running. The door to his hotel room was open. She goes inside, leaves me unattended. And keep in mind, for our listeners, like, this is the 80s. So, if you had a toothache, mom might give you a shot of whiskey. So I get out the car and I start looking for daddy. I want to know where daddy's at. He wasn't really there. And in my mind, he's a superhero, like most kids view their father as. And so what he did is, when mom went in the front room, he snuck out the back door and jumped in his pickup truck. Well, I seen him do that, so I grabbed the tailgate of it. And he was drunk, so he backed up with me holding onto the tailgate, and I'm screaming, "Daddy, daddy, daddy," only for him to pull off. And as he pulled off quick, and it slung me off the tailgate, and I went spinning, got up, and I can vividly remember him going down and a curve on the road, getting in a wreck, and that was, fair enough. It's a traumatic experience, but it doesn't define who I am. Although I didn't realize this at the time, but I let that define who I was and carry me throughout the majority of my life. So I'm always a kid that has an unanswerable question of, am I good enough? What's wrong with me? And I carried that and lived in that, and still from time to time still deal with it, but it no longer defines me. And I believe a big power of change for me is the awareness, right? If I'm not aware of something, I can't, I'm just ignorant to it. I don't know. Help me see what I can't see. Self-deception is hard to spot by myself. But once I become aware of it, then if I choose to continue to act in it, now I'm just being stupid. And I don't like being stupid. So I try to catch that whenever it shows up. But I think that pivotal moment was something that turned me into being defiant, because I realized that, like, mom's working, dad's not there. I want dad there. Why? What can I do? Am I not good enough? So I'm not getting attention. If you're a kid and you're just doing what you're supposed to do, you don't really get attention, because the parents appreciate that. Now, if you set a house on fire or torture an animal or two, you get your ass spanked, and you get attention. And I didn't know the difference between good attention or bad attention, so I just got the easiest form, and it was bad attention. So much to the point that it caused me to get kicked out of regular school and go into behavioral school. And in there, it was just, again, this is the 80s, so the curriculum was more on the behaviors than the actual education. And my behaviors were horrible. So, they would lock us up like pretzels with our arms and hands behind our back. throw us in a dark room, turn the lights out. There weren't any windows in there, and they'd leave us in there for hours. So
Mhm.
this is just like compounding experiences that's turning me into like this self of this lack of self-worth, um, basically menace to society. It's almost looking back at it now and like telling the story right in the present. It's like, yeah, well, of course drugs were going to be a part of this dude's story. Like it's completely apparent. Or,
Mhm.
you know, becoming a serial killer or some horrible dictator or a slumlord, like anything that just wasn't good is definitely in the horizon. Um, and again, which is why I say like something had a different plan for me, because I was very self-destructive and fuck you, I'm not going to do what you tell me.
Right.
um, and then from there, just I found sports in junior high that got me out of the behavioral school, and they realized how far behind my grades had been. So I'm finding sports, which I'm good at,
Yeah.
but I'm also in like learning disability classes. So, there's something wrong with me there. The cooler kids are making fun of me. I'm already not the type that really tries to fit in. I'm just always different. My name's Hip, which early on in junior high, everybody would call me hippie. I would wear my mom's bell bottoms, drench myself in patchouli. I would eat dirt and worship trees and only listen to like anything from 69 and back for music, which at the time just wasn't normal. Or let's not say normal, because that's judgmental. It was not the majority vote. It was almost like
Right.
I was an old soul, I guess you would say. But
Mhm.
and I don't know what attracted me to that. Art. I was always good at art. My favorite studies in school were art and recess, and I was pretty good at lunch too. But being in sports gave me like an outlet and let me get attention. And I play in football, so it's like people cheer you when you tackle someone, and it was like, cool, I want to hurt someone,
Yeah.
because I'm hurting. And from that just turned into drugs, and from there it's levels of just insanity, manipulation, perverted behaviors, um, but still that whole time like holding on to am I doing it right, what's wrong with me, from dad.
Mhm.
um, he came into the life one more time, took me down to Florida to live there. He could only put up with me so long, and then threatened to send me to child like foster care. And mom came to the rescue again, now with stepdad in tow, and he kind of took me on. I'd never had a desire to have children. Just I don't know. I think it was looking at myself and being like, I don't want to bring someone else like me into this world.
Yeah.
Um, Somewhere along the lines, I kind of lucked out, and got saved somehow. So I don't want to chance the possibility of bringing another me into the world, but going the alternate route that they were set on early on.
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, my stepdad got with my mom and raised me like his own. And I was always looking for attention from my actual father. So I never really gave this dude too much mind. Like, he was just my mom's boyfriend ultimately. And yeah, they became married, but like still to this day, um, I call him by his first name versus dad. Like, it's almost like a hump I've been working on. But I didn't realize the gold mine I had. I'm so blessed and so lucky. Like, the universe threw me another father in replace of the one that I was looking for. But it wasn't good enough for me at that time because I wanted my dad. Um, and, as karma has it, once I got older, I got with a girl in active addiction, and she had children. And, being in those drug comas, I was just looking for a ride to chase the bag to get the dope. And
Mhm.
it's funny how it played out because now I get to be a stepfather um, to kids that their biological father wasn't there and didn't do them very right in life. And it's not something that I asked for, but it was something that was put in front of me that, you know, are you ready to accept this challenge? And of course, like, I'm a man of second chances. I've been given so many. And ultimately, with everything that's gone on in my life, why wouldn't I want them to have a better life than I had, or the thoughts of themselves, even if their life wasn't as bad as mine, just the way they may think about themselves because their father wasn't there. Like, I totally get that. I can relate with that. And if I could keep someone from experiencing that, like, why not do my part to contribute? So I've stepped to that challenge and I enjoy it. And yeah, now I can become a dad. And, with my stepfather, I've part of my amends process once I got clean was to ask him to adopt me. So I had an adult adoption. I changed my last name. I believe I was 34 years old when that happened. And again, it was just part of my amends process for everything he's done, because I didn't realize what he was doing when I was a kid.
Right.
So yeah, the drugs took over. I would steal from everyone. I would steal from you and help you look for it. Countless amounts of arrests, misdemeanors, felonies. I've been to prison. The thing with drugs, man, is it once you get so deep into it, like, you have to live this second life. And whenever that happens, the conflict is like, you don't remember, or I don't remember who I would lie to about what. And I would have to remember these lies, and it's stressful, and getting caught in it. And ultimately, if I look inward, like, I suffer from extreme compassion and empathy. So, like, being in that lifestyle, it was very apathetic and greedy. And it always did feel wrong. And I knew I was doing wrong and I didn't like it. But I did it anyway, because you have to, like, become that in order to thrive in that ecosystem. And I learned a lot of sick behaviors in there. And still to the point, I also have I'll have 10 years clean next March. So I've been distant from the drugs for a pretty long time, almost a decade, and there's still behaviors that are entrenched in me that come out from time to time that are directly connected to that act of addiction. So yeah, I opening up this and getting the Tasmanian devil up here started and remembering these memories and stuff, I may lose my place from time to time. So if you got any questions this far, fire away.
Yeah, we'll pause there. And if anyone does have questions, you're welcome to ask. So we'll just take a moment to, I think, just breathe and pause. I really appreciate you sharing. And from some of, I think from a lot of what you shared, there's an element, kind of a theme that I noticed, that I think, with some of the entrepreneurs watching, that I think is tied to it, is there's an element of, we can want something, right? Like, so much in our lives, and either that thing not showing up, or that thing not being there, that we can feel that anger, that pain, or that wanting to be seen. What has been most helpful for you in terms of managing when those feelings arise? What have been your most helpful practices?
Well, early on it was just self-destruction, because life was happening to me. I'm the victim, blah, 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 blah. Dad don't want me. Nobody wants me. Refusing to look at the harm and the misery that I was causing. So one thing that has really helped is, like, once I got in long-term recovery and started understanding the difference between victim and volunteer, there's a saying that I like to live by, and it hits hard, and it took me a few years to really understand it after I heard it. But it's, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So basically, it puts anything, anywhere, at any time, back 100% on me. I can't complain about something. It's like being I'm sure you and a lot of our listeners have like been in a car driving in traffic and then been pissed at the traffic while you're being traffic. You know, it's like one of those scenarios. Um, so I just stay cognizant and remember that like life's unfair, and I'm so grateful that life is unfair, because if it was fair, I would be dead or in prison the rest of my life. You know, I want to focus on the things that I got caught for and the trouble that I got in, and how like, yeah, fuck you, you just got a problem with me, I don't have a problem. In reality, if life was fair, I would have got caught for every felony I've committed, and there were some super serious ones, more serious than the ones that I went to and got incarcerated for. Um, but yeah, like even being in prison, I it was always someone else's fault, and it wasn't until recovery really hit that like I started realizing that there might be something here. Like I'm a social chameleon, I can fit in with any groups. I've done it my whole life. You know, and part of that from the addiction, just playing the dual reality of two lives. I can always be multiple people at once. You know, I can sit and have an awesome talk with you, James, and then go and talk to one of your enemies and talk shit about you and make me feel important to them, and vice versa. But once I got clean, I was like, you know what? Something happened. I had a different outlook, and I don't even know if it was an outlook. What it was like the curiosity, right? The same curiosity that like made me want to like drop a 10 strip of LSD so I could see a dragon flying in the sky, melting into a cloud. The same curiosity that caused me to like wonder what those anti-drug Just Say No commercials were really talking about. Was the same curiosity that was like, so you're telling me that if I don't get high and replace my thoughts and feelings about myself, that I can thrive and do good? It just doesn't make sense. Like I've compiled this mountain, this gigantic mountain of horrific bullshit in my life, and all I got to do is like pay attention to my feelings and like ask for help and speak on these things, and like that mountain will dwindle down, and I'll actually start building up good fruit and presence and blessings on this side. It doesn't make sense to me, but it piqued my curiosity. So I just gave it a shot. You know, what else you got to lose? You're living out of a trash bag right now. You're in transitional housing. You just got released from incarcerated therapeutic communities or like drug treatment. So like, why not see what this side has to offer? And the crazy thing was like, because I was at least trying, I was just giving an inch and I was getting back miles. I was starting to understand things. And by understand, you know, I knew what integrity was, like the definition of it, right? Just what do you do when no one's looking? But I didn't really feel the word integrity and what that meant. And to feel, I know what communication means. I'm communicating right now to you, but to feel the word communication through living it, through creating experiences and actions, and it hits different when you really feel the actual word, because you're living in application of it. But as that was growing and going, I was starting to like notice things in my life that were changing. And I was focusing on the process of just my process that I was in love with was like, from now till 5 minutes, don't use. And I did that, and I rinsed and repeat, and I did it, and things would get hard, and they told me to call someone, then tell them how I was feeling, and I would call someone, I would tell them how I'm feeling. They'd be like, go hang out with these people, and they feel just like you, and tell them how you feel, and they'll share with you how they feel, and you guys will like get through those times together. And I was just so engulfed in that process that I really wasn't focusing on what the result was going to be. I didn't know what the result was going to be. I could remember very vividly there would be times where I would lay in bed and I would think like, I haven't thought about smoking crack for like 90 minutes, and it would just feel so good, almost like a weight lifted off my chest, and I wanted more of it. So I continued to do what these people did. It was impregnated in me very early in recovery that if you want what these people have and you're willing to make the effort to get it, then you're going to do what they did. So I just, followed suit. I rode their coattails, and I'm grateful for that, right? There were a bunch of people that seen something in me even though I couldn't see it myself. And like that has spawned into like giving me opportunities of magnitudes of dreams that were lost that I weren't even aware were dreams. I never wanted to have my own yard to mow. I never really cared about a garden. I would just steal it from another neighbor's garden. I didn't care about having bird feeders and filling them with seed when they get low so I can wake up and drink coffee and watch the birds hang out and kick it and eat and steal seeds from each other. But somewhere along the line, like the lost dream of that had awakened. They told me early on if I was to write down what I wanted when I first got into recovery, and just lived at that, I would have been robbing myself. And I see now so much how true that is. And even now, if I was to write what I want now, if I continue on the same path that I'm on and applying these spiritual principles that I'm learning to master over my lifetime, I would be robbing myself again. Because it's funny how I was told to be selfish in my recovery. And I was like, fuck it. If y'all die, that's cool. If you overdose, if you use whatever, that's cool. I can't even worry about that. I got to focus on me. And that selfishness over time and applied spiritual principles to had turned into selflessness. And now it's like, it's bigger than me now. It's bigger than what I want. It's like, now I'm almost, I don't want to say obligated, but there's a sense of obligation because what I have obtained was so freely given to me. Who am I not to give it back and be that person that people can look up to, or if they need help, seek out and find? I need to make myself easily obtainable. And just in the realm of like everything that I learned in recovery, I just took that same model and applied it in my business. Humility, it's the ideal state. Gratitude, compassion, communication, sharing and caring, integrity, all these things apply in every area of my life. So I just use that same model and I put it into tattooing, right? I tattooed in prison. Well, I wouldn't even say tattooed. I learned how to scar people and stretch skin. And, through recovery, I got an opportunity to start working at a hole-in-the-wall shop. Well, to me, it wasn't a hole-in-the-wall shop. It was a tattoo shop, and I guess it was a dream. So I applied humility and my willingness and teachability to like learn from these people. Even though they weren't the greatest, they were still better than where I was at, and I used that as a stepping stone. And in turn, that's just led to greater and greater experiences, to the point to like people that I used to teach myself how to tattoo while I would be in that little hole-in-the-wall shop were fucking rock stars and still are, and their predecessor and giants in the industry. And still the whole time in my head, if you want what these people have and you're willing to make the effort to get it and do what they did, then you do what they do and get what they get. So I still did that. Some of my biggest superheroes were people that I seen on TV or books I read. Only to keep rinsing and repeating, focusing on the process, staying humble, staying driven, staying in integrity. And then I got a chance to find a mentor that had the same heart, head, and vision. And the vision I wasn't even aware of. That's a new word that's came to me in recent years, that's like why it's important and a part of like the entrepreneurial mindset is like vision, right? I wasn't even aware that I basically had a vision in my head, figured out what it was going to be and take to be there. And in that present moment, I was living as if I'd completed the vision. So it's like I have the goal in mind. What are my values to get to the vision? And I lived up through those. Now with some time and understanding like the language of how the psychological side of like the mind, and just the different languages, the business languages, the languages about everything, of being an entrepreneur, like in understanding those, I can see and look back and I'd be like, well, I was doing this the whole time. So it's good to have like proper definitions to put on things to know like, okay, this isn't new to you. Like you just keep doing this. But what it's done is it's like it's made the vision clearer.
Mhm.
To the point to where like I get to travel around the world. I get to teach people all around the world to better themselves and to know their worth and their value and to put proper value on themselves. To like have a mentor that like we have a podcast with some of those heroes that I was reading about and didn't even was just curious like what they look like, what they smell like, what does their hand feel like when I shake it. One of those heroes is part of host with the podcast along with me and Matt, but my brother Joshua Carlton, like world renowned, like one of the Michael Jordans of the tattoo industry. Some of the rules and regulations that we apply in the business health side of things, he got to like implement and write kind of, to like that one person who may struggle from addiction that I can relate with that reaches out to me and has a bunch of self-harm scars that they're not very proud of anymore. And they're stepping into creating their own business to help other, I don't know, battered women. And they're creating and building their own empire. And they're taking a chance when everyone else is doubting them and they want this new tattoo of maybe their logo or an image or their favorite bird to cover up these past scars that they're no longer a part of. And they come to me and I get to sit with them intimately 6 to 8 inches away from their skin the whole time, is like we share experience, strengths and hopes and traumas and struggles. And then at the end of that session, they go up to the mirror and they just release all emotion and they're crying and they hug me and they're so thankful because like those scars of the past, skeletons in their closet, are no longer visible for other people to judge and talk shit about them about. And now they have a beautiful piece of artwork that they get to carry on. So it's like, man, it's just so much more than just ink and needles going in the skin. It's like I'm a therapist, sometimes I'm a doctor. Sometimes I'm the son that I can't tell you how many times I've tattooed parents that their child I'm doing a memorial piece on that died from addiction. And here I am, that child. And they got to see like, oh, there is hope. Not every addict has a death sentence, and there can be so much more. And the beautiful thing is like that obsession and compulsion, man. I've noticed this in a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, you motherfuckers are driven to a point to where it's almost, it can become unhealthy. And I have that same obsession and compulsion, that driving sense of like tunnel vision and focus. And, we're built for struggle. Like, to be a true entrepreneur and to have a business where you are what you're selling, you have to be built for struggle. You have to be built for the fuck yous. You have to be built for the hard times. That's all part of the process. And like, what a beautiful process it is, because as long as I stay focused and driven, I have everything in my tool belt that I need, every spiritual principle that can be applied and used to something that will get me through it. And like, things like steadfast, perseverance, patience. These are like warrior principles that come into play when, you decide to like swallow that big knot in your throat and step out when everything is telling you can't do it, but you just know deep down inside there's something. You have to take this risk. You have to. This ain't your practice life. Like, man, just, I don't regret that I did heroin. I don't regret that I stole from people. I don't regret that I got a felony strong arm robbery. I don't regret that I lost 2 years of my life in prison, because those things led up to making me who I was. And they were necessary actions that had to happen to create who I am today. And who I am today, I'm not saying is the greatest person, but who I am today is someone that always will continue to seek out the greatest version of myself. And in the meantime, while doing that and seeking that out, I'm trying to help and inspire people to do the same with them, because like, it doesn't matter what you did, who you are, who you hurt. once you become aware of that and you want to change, if there's breath in your lungs and air in your lungs, there's hope, and I really believe that. I've seen the grimiest of the dirtiest do a 360 and like become some of the most beautiful, profound people in the world. It's like you hear horror stories about people, and I know one thing is like, man, if they change that same drive that was driving them to be insane and crazy flipped onto this side, they're going to do amazing things.
Yeah. And thanks for thank you so much for just like really, driving that home for people, right? Of there is next steps, right? Like there is a future, there is vision. And I'm just going to pull some things out because I think it'll be helpful. One of the things that you said as you were in this transition is having this, I think you called it a curiosity. It sounds like it maybe even wasn't necessarily a like realization, but it was this element of wanting something different, that even if it didn't make sense, even if it didn't necessarily add up to you from where you were looking at, just the idea of being open, of seeing that something could potentially work, and at least giving it a try is what really started to open things up for you. Is that right? Is that, yeah?
And you're talking like when the curiosity that caused me to look to see like what this recovery thing was about.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of, and it's not, yeah, and it could be the recovery, but it sounds like the idea that was introduced in recovery of really just, you don't have to claim your future right now. It's looking at that next step. I'm thinking of, there may be entrepreneurs listening who, maybe they lost a client, maybe they've lost the business, or maybe they have other shit things happening in their life, and they're maybe having some of that shame and doubt, and even anger at themselves or anger at others. I guess the question that I'm perhaps asking or pointing out, would you say it's the just being open to it not having to add up for them?
Totally. And like listening to you talk, what it reminds me of is I remember the first time I fell in love, and this is it, she's the one. I can't tell you how many times I've said that in my life. But like when that was coming to an end, there's no hope there. I don't see another way. This can't be. So I would do everything to hold on to that, to a point of like perversion and harmful behaviors. They say like how they used to catch monkeys is that they would hollow out a coconut and they would put a banana or some food in there, and the hole was big enough for the monkey to stick its hand in. Once it grabbed whatever was inside, it wouldn't let go because it wanted it so much. And what would happen? The monkey would get caught and killed. And it's just like me. So like I may have started at this shop and it was a hole in the wall shop. To me, it was the mecca of tattooing. And I didn't understand like, how can it get any better? Which is another good thing to do, is like live into what questions are you asking to live into? So like, I guess at that time, subconsciously, I was like, oh, how can this get any better? It can't. There's no way it can. So like when that would end or I would make a transition, it was super scary and I didn't understand it. Or maybe I misspelled a word on someone. Well, this is great. This is going to get out all across the world because I'm the center of the universe. So everyone's going to know about it. No, you're not that important, dude. Chill out and just stay focused. You made a mistake. Welcome to the human experience. And I would take that move and it would be scary. There was a point to where, my mentor, Matt Klemmer, like in business and in tattooing and life. And like he's a host on the Tattoo Guardians. And like, I help him coach his coaching program to tattooers online. There was a point to where I was going to make a move to go with him, but the shop that I was at was full of my friends, to the point to where like they were asking my wife, they were like, we will pay you to keep him here. But something was just not right. Like I needed to make this move, and it was scary. And I remember there used to be this platform on social media. Maybe it was called Periscope.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a lady on there like reading tarot cards and like telling people their future. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm skeptic, but yeah, let's see what she has to say. And like, I went to that point, and I remember I went to Taco Bell, and I was like sitting in my car, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. This chick was basically telling me like there's a big change that's coming that you're scared of, you're supposed to move with. Now, granted, that's vague, and you could probably say that to anyone in their life, but at the time it was something tangible that I needed to hear, even though I was going to go through it anyway. So I'm very defiant. If something's scary, there is that same curiosity that caused me to, you know, drop the 10 strip, that caused me to like hang around these people that claim that they didn't get high, to see what they're talking about. And it was, the intent behind it may have been selfish. You know, maybe there's a new group of people I can hang out with and steal from. Maybe if I go to this shop, I might be able to better my craft and becoming the best artist in the world. So it's all, there is a little bit of narcissism there. But I think we all have that from, you know, a little bit, you know, it gauges. But I took the jump. And also I think there's a little bit in me too that's like very aware of my patterns of like getting to a certain point and then shooting myself in the foot and going back to a comfortable area, building up, and just staying in that cycle of insanity, in that realm of comfort, right? But I did that, and I stayed very uncomfortable for a long period of time, and I stayed open, and I stayed teachable, and I stayed willing to the process. And it's still something that shows up constantly. Fear, right? Fuck everything and run. Fear. But fear is a liar. You know, there's healthy fear, right? If I see a tiger, yeah, be scared, you know, get in a truck, run, fucking do something. But there's also like this imaginary fear, like and it's in us all. Like our mind is not us, right? And my mind's always trying to keep me safe. It's just inherent. It's instinct, right? We just want to survive at a basic level of being human, is survival. So it's always pushing against us. And I just stepped through that fear. And like, I have like-minded individuals. Like, we are like the 5 people we hang out with the most. So I have people who have characteristics of things that I want to emulate as I grow and mature in this process. So I surround myself with these type of people. And I ask for help, and they're my sounding boards. They hold me accountable to things. I hold them accountable to things. We don't co-sign each other's bullshit. And continue to thrive and push each other and make shit weird. And when we share our dreams with each other, yes, do that. I might fail. It's all right. Do it. Do it anyway. This, you know, it's not like when you're laying in your deathbed and you close your eyes. I don't know if like we get to come back to a particular time where we get a redo over something. Right. I don't know if we're just worm food. I don't know if we get to like fly in space in the clouds. Like, no one really knows. So it's like, if this is the present moment and this is what I have to do right now, why not live it to my best and full potential? Just like, you know, the time that I've shot heroin, you know, I did that. Not everybody gets to say that they lived through that. What a blessing. I did. And not only did I get to live through it, but I also got to take home some lessons from it, to share with other people, and to share with, like, you know, if shit gets tough, like in business, sitting in the hole for 6 months was tough in prison, you know, having to pull my own tooth out with a coat hook or with a bed hook. That was tough. So if like I got a client that's bitchy and it's tough to deal with, I can remember like, nah, this isn't tough. That was tough. And then I can get experience from other people. I've never been to war before and had to fight for a country and like got shot at. There are people that have. So I can rely on that and have gratitude that, like, man, you know, that's tough. Helping teach or sit in front of a camera and speak to a bunch of strangers vulnerably, that's not tough, you know? being at war stuff. At least I'm not on fire right now.
Right.
Although my laser surgery felt like some fire.
Yeah.
I got a couple days ago, but
Yeah.
gratitude's the attitude.
Yeah. So it's definitely the attitude, and I'm just writing down a few things here, because really there's a lot of, I mean, there's tons of wisdom in what you're sharing, and so I'm really hearing is asking for help is important, being open to doing new things, even if it doesn't add up. If you're experiencing fear, that's a natural thing, and you can still step out, you can move forward. And it sounds like, sharing that with others and will help drive that wisdom. And really being open to, it sounds like, these different opportunities. And the one that you were just sharing is really this idea of, some people would call it perspective, and sometimes maybe our own experiences don't always add up into it, but it sounds like perspective and context, like put context to what you're going through, right? Like if you're saying, the client's being bitchy, there's other things that could be happening, that are more difficult. So that idea of the client being bitchy feels a bit smaller, right? More manageable, able to handle that. Yeah. And I think, I really like this theme of the fear. I was talking to a client earlier today, and I would just be curious on your perspective and from your journey. They're moving through these next steps. They lost their actual father a year ago, and they're still experiencing the grief. They still are moving into these next phases of their life, and sometimes they do feel paralyzed, right, by this fear that can come up as they're going to take these next steps. From your practices, because it sounds like you've worked through some different grief, you've worked through so many different emotions. Would you have any recommendations? And I know this is really random, but for some reason, as you were talking, it just made me think of it, because I think this is a common thing people experience. Sometimes we're grieving, or we're feeling shame from something, or we're feeling paralyzed. What can help, beyond just sharing? What could they potentially do? I know you keep a journal. I think you often post journal entries that you do. I was just curious.
I mean, loss. I see. This is another thing that I realized that could possibly be like a trait of an entrepreneur. But when I hear things like that, it hurts, because I've lost someone, and I totally get it. And I get just being stuck or wanting to pitch a tent, and just sit in self-pity. And instantly my heart goes out, and I'm like, man, what can I say right now to fix everything in this individual's life? And it's sometimes I have to pump the brakes on that and realize that's not a thing that I get to do. I'm powerless over people, places, and things. They have to have their process, and they can't be robbed of their struggle, because if I was robbed of my struggle, I wouldn't be who I am today. So it's help is the key. Share these feelings, acknowledge them. Yeah, you're still hurting. There's no timeline that says oh, you lost your father, so at 365 days the grieving should be over, because at 366, well, then you're stupid and you're doing it wrong, so you might not even try to follow through with all this. There's no cookie cutter way to do this. Acknowledge them. It's your father. You're supposed to grieve and feel bad. And if you're anything like me, I've learned that my dad was a shitball, but I still would love the opportunity for him to just know that I'm doing good or way better than him. And if you're even close to your father, unlike I was, you want to you want them, man, it would just feel so good if I could just show you, my grandma. My grandma is that person. I just want to show my grandma that I'm not that high junkie that you died knowing. I was more than that, and I became more than that. And it hurts sometimes, and that grief and stuff comes back. but more so than that, like she didn't die in vain because I'm doing this for her, from her. Like I am a part of her, and I get to live through, and she gets to live through me with each person. When someone does lose someone, if I can carry a hopeful message to them, that's not me, it's carrying it. It's my grandmother's word that she instilled into me. It's my higher power speaking through me to you. When you go through surgery, no one shakes the scalpel's hand. They thank the doctor. I'm just another tool. But it's scary. It's supposed to be scary. You're supposed to grieve. But just because it's scary doesn't mean to stop. Do this for your father. They're proud of you if you don't do it, and they're going to be proud of you if you do it. And when that comes up, acknowledge it and tell someone like, dude, I'm still fucked up over this loss. Like, what can I do? Like, I don't just, sometimes the best thing to do is just listen, and just share. And, you spoke about my journaling, and I do sometimes when I write it, they don't even make sense. Sometimes they're not even words.
Mm-hmm.
They're just thoughts in weird shapes that my hand's going in because it just needs to get out. And I know clarity comes in the doing, but this too shall pass. It's just part of the process. And even though it hurts, like we still, and I'm going to regret saying this, but even though it hurts, still be grateful for it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, and I really appreciate your honesty there, because I think, sometimes we're looking for those, no matter the situation, sometimes we're looking for the shortcut. We're looking for, the one thing, or we're looking for just the one fix. And there is no special cure. There is no one thing. There is no shortcut. And it's you said that, an element of regretting saying that a bit. The lesson is in the process, right? Like the lesson is in the journey. And I just really appreciate you really sharing for everyone today of the lessons that you've gotten from your journey to help them really get a sense of that their journey gets to have a message. They get to have a future. They get to be open, that's possible, and that wherever they're at in their journey is okay, even if it's not exactly where they want to be just yet.
Man, yeah, dude. Like your gift makes room for you. Mm-hmm. To become a successful entrepreneur, business owner, like failure has taught me more than success ever will. So like, I'm grateful for the failures. I'm grateful for the mistakes I've done in tattoos. Like I'm grateful for the ugly foot because it gives contrast to the good foot. Like, if everything was great, then how would we know what success looks like? How would you know that you were doing something successful unless you had failed or feel like giving up? So it's like there is never any losses ever. They're always lessons. You're either winning or you're learning. You're winning or you're learning. But the key is like consistency. Don't give up just because you've learned a whole bunch of lessons and haven't won anything yet. You're just, in the process of taking a test, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process. I always let people know I didn't make money for like the first, 5 fucking years of my business. It's like something's going wrong. Apparently I just wasn't doing some things right. And so yeah, wherever someone's at in their journey, honor your own pace. That's the growth process. And, just in terms of, as we end here, is there anything else that you want to share? Does that feel complete?
Yeah, man, I'm complete. I just, what an awesome opportunity. This is another one of those notches in the belt that it's like, how can this get any better? I never would have imagined like having you on the podcast. One, I didn't know I was going to fall in love with you like I did because you're a sweetheart and you're amazing. But, Matt said you were that. And for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But actually getting to experience you and like being in your life and understanding who you are and how you operate and stuff was fun. The podcast was very great. And, you know, for our listeners, like James is a great listener and I appreciate that quality, dude. And I'm just honored to serve the best I can and be a part of this. So thank you so much.
Oh man, thank you. You know, you inspire me, and um, I'm practicing receiving compliments as well. So it's I think it might be a little bit of a human natural tendency, right? Like when you're like, oh, you're a great listener. I'm like, oh, I'm in the back of my mind, right, for part of this going, oh, what about the people on the podcast and stuff? Or they're bantering back and forth. But I really just love you, being open, the mentor that you are, sharing your story, being there for the people that you are. And so thank you. And for those of you listening, you know, if you're catching the replay, let us know. And if you have any questions as well, feel free to ask. And if you're looking for more of these interviews, if you go to givememygoodies.com, it's a special website I made, and there I'm going to have a group with more of these interviews and different strategies depending on where you're at in your business or where you're at in your journey. So thank you so much, Hip, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you.